Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here today, and I humbly thank you for joining me. Now, this is another new segment of my story time. For whatever it's worth, this is my little protest against history, his story. This is me telling my story my way. Now, my story time is where I tell those stories from my life as I experience them, stories that make up my story, not his story. Stories that are authentic and unique to me and my experiences. And these stories are a part of my legacy and the genetic imprints that I leave to my future generations, who, by the way, don't even really know about these stories because they just never came up. Overall, these stories probably only have meaning to me, but hopefully you'll find some benefit in them too. Or not. I'm going to tell them anyway, for the record. Now, today I'm going to talk about hair. For many, many years, I had a saying, and all the friends who knew me knew my saying: change your hair, change your life. For me, there was some significance in the time that I would choose to change my hair. Now, for up until 1983, when I was up until I was 8 months pregnant with my second child, in 1983 was when I decided to change things. And a lot of things in my life changed in 1983. It was a significant turning point in my life for a number of reasons. But the hair began the whole thing. From looking back, when I look at it, I can see the change in hair was the initiation point. Um, anyway, until that time, I had very long hair. It was down past my butt, virgin hair, never been cut, never been touched. I was never learned how to work with hair. I didn't know how to do anything with hair. I mean, it was all I could do to just braid it. But I had so much hair and it was so heavy, I couldn't put it up. I couldn't do anything because it would give me a headache. It was just too much hair. So I just enjoyed the hair, and every night I would wash it and throw it up over the mattress to dry. And my first husband at the time would bitch and moan about the hair always getting in the way and da 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 da. And one day in 1983, I was, like I said, I was about 8 months pregnant. I decided I'm going to change my hair. So, of course, I had no one to contact. I had no connections in the stylist industry. I had no, so I had to start asking around at work if anybody had a good stylist who could take this on. And what I had done is found a picture of what I wanted my hair ultimately to look like. And I finally went in one day, and I went in on a Saturday, and I was gone for no less than 7 hours. Um, and that's important. I did not tell anybody. I told my sister, and I went over to her house before I went, and I had her take a picture of my hair before it was cut. And I'll put that picture in this video somewhere. So my hair was very long, hadn't been touched. I got up early on this Saturday and I left and went to get my hair styled. And I can't remember what excuse I made for being gone all day. But anyway, I went in and I sat down, and the guy was cool. And he sat me in the chair, and I showed him the picture. Okay, we can do that. He had to do the cut, and then he had to do a perm. He had to cut it like several times because, like I said, the hair had nothing, no style, no anything. And when he sat down and put my hair in a ponytail and went to cut it, some girl walked by and went, "Oh my God, we got to save that hair." So I still have the actual hair in a braid that she saved for me when he cut it, like to hear to start. So then he cut it, he styled it, and in the end, I had like a cute little shag thing, and I'll post a picture of that. So I went from this long hair that um, had never been touched to this shag look, which was cute at the time. And once I got it cut, my whole life changed. Everything changed. I had the baby. I ended up moving. It just went on and on. And it was quite traumatic that year, actually, with all the change. But when I came home from the stylist, my daughter, who was had her hair cut short and was trying to grow it long, was the look on her face. She was totally crestfallen. Her mom's hair that she was trying to emulate was now gone, and nobody knew. And my niece, who was there, didn't even recognize me. She just had the look on her face, and she was probably all of about 2. She just looked at me like, "Oh, who are you?" So it really did change the look. Okay, so in 1983 I did do that, and then after that, accepting the fact that I had no skills, I learned very quickly that I had to find a really good stylist. I had to invest in somebody who could really cut my hair so that I didn't have to do anything. If I had to do anything more than blow dry it with a comb or something, it wasn't going to work. I mean, I could put gel and hairspray and whatnot, but I truly, and even now, have no styling skills that are noteworthy at all. So I had to have somebody, and I worked in the corporate world, so I needed my hair to always look sharp and finished without me having the skill set to have to do it. So I truly depended on good stylists to do that. But in this, I realized as I once I cut my hair, I had to keep cutting it, and as long and the genre of the '80s, it just kept getting shorter and shorter until I was like David Bowie, Diamond Dogs, all shaved in the back, and I had stuff on top, and that was it. I did go all the way, but you have to get cut every 4 to 6 weeks in order to keep styles like that intact, and which was fine. But when you're dealing with family, the demands of family, work, spouses, things like that, and the cost of it was always an issue. So what I found is that everything would become more important than my care. So at some point, I had to draw a line in the sand. And for me, for some women, it might be their nails or it might be something else. For me, it was the hair. So the hair became the line in the sand for me, that no matter what was going on in my reality, nothing would take priority over the care of my hair. And that meant buying food. And I did talk about this in my book, Living the Big Sky Life. Chef did learn the hard way that I meant what I said, because what happens in those environments, you end up getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And who's the one who gives it up? Usually the mother, usually the wife has to give up something. And I refused. Um, and I'm not really going to talk about the Big Sky. If you want to know the story of my experience in Montana, that's all in the book, and I'm not here to repeat any of those stories. But he did learn the hard way. Um, I wrote a little section called Cowgirl Coiffure, where he learned the hard way that hair was going to be the priority. In fact, I even wrote a dream sequence in the rear view mirror about hair called The Salon Beyond. It was just a twisty little story for anyone who's interested. And those are in my books that are below. Anyway, so having to deal with hair, and then I learned later. Okay, now and this is something. These are just little tidbits and side notes that I've learned tied to hair. Now, when you think of Roman history and you think of Roman invasion of Europe and all of that, the European tribes were all earthy and down, and they had long hair, kind of like our Native American tribes, the long hair, because the hair was considered the antenna. Hair was, well, think of Samson and Delilah. Samson basically confessed that his strength was in the length of his hair. Well, if it's a psychic antenna to the ether and it's picking things up, the longer the hair you have, the more receptive you are to certain energies to the outside. I mean, even in, I think it was World War II, I learned that, they would get Native American trackers to do things. But then the minute they would get into the military, they would shave their head and they could no longer track. Um, because they lost their connection, they lost the antenna. And what the Romans used to do when they invaded Europe, what the Romans, they shaved their heads so that when they were in battle, they could distinguish their fellow soldiers against the enemy they were trying to fight, who all had long hair. So I find that the message tied to hair to be a really important thing. Um, of course, this channel, the silver years, is tied to silver, which for me would be tied to the color of my hair, which I imagine will remain this way, this color, for the remainder of my days. I have no intention of changing the color of what it is. So the silver years, I think, is tied. So is my strength in my hair. I think, for men, they call it, for women, it's their crown, their beauty. I mean, there's so many stories of the beauty of women tied to their hair. And for men, it's their mane. And I think men who have long hair have a lot of strength, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So whatever you do with your hair, it's a reflection of your personality and where you are at that time. And at the end of the day, it's all good. But if you want to change things, and I'm all about changing things through your words, through, because it's all frequency, changing things. You can change little things, and that's going to change. It's going to ripple out and have an impact. So when I'm ready to really change something, my hair is probably the first thing, the first line of defense. It's the first thing. And I will not put my hair care on the back burner because something else is more important than it. I consider it my front line to self care, and that's just me and my personality. So, for whatever it's worth, um, that's my perception on hair, and that's how I feel about hair. And some of the images, I'll put some images in here of some of the progressions I've had with hair. There've been other things in between, but for now, my hair is the way it is because I'm not quite sure what I want it to be. How what kind of reflection of me I want to put out there. And so my hair in the meantime is just growing because I'm not quite sure how I want my hair to look going forward. So that's my little bit, my story time on change your hair, change your life. Now, I'd love to hear your stories as well. Today, for the record, this is my story and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.